Good morning, everyone. Ricardo Wilkins here, and thanks for joining another weekly session, Office Hours for Teams, with your host, myself, Ricardo Wilkins. As always, this is a 30-minute session for really your opportunity to really ask anything about Teams that hopefully I can answer. And you should see a Q&A chat on the right-hand side of your screen. So feel free now or anytime during the next 30 minutes or so that you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat. I'll be monitoring that chat and we'll try to answer it live if I can. In lieu of questions, I also try to just, come with some tips on different things as well. So this link that you just used is, brought you here now for viewing this live. The same link after this session is over will eventually become a landing page where you'll, have a link to all the recorded sessions from the last few weeks, or really all the recorded sessions. So keep that aka.ms Office Hours 0365 link handy, and it'll always direct you to this content. So again, Q&A questions, feel free to put them in the chat at any time. What I thought I'd talk about today is just some tips and tricks around chatting in general. Obviously, there's the basics of chatting, right? Whether it's chatting in Teams chat where only your team members can see it, or chatting in what we would call private chat, one-to-one chat, where I can chat with anyone in the organization. But to me, there's some, effective ways, I think, of doing chat, especially if the people you're chatting with, whether it's your team members or, even in a one-on-one chat, if they're not as addicted to Teams as you and I are, and you think they either are not checking Teams regularly, maybe they don't have their notifications set, and you want to make sure that they, see the content. I just thought I'd kind of go through some of my tips and techniques for making sure, that people see what I'm chatting about, that they can, engage. And really, how do I engage with chat as I'm, in my day-to-day world? How do I do that? So just thought I'd do that as I'm going along. Again, put a question in chat at any given time. But as if you've seen any of my other sessions, or really if you've gone through any kind of Teams training, hopefully they talked about @ mentions as one way to draw people in, I guess, or tag people in a chat. So certainly in this Teams chat, for instance, I can start a chat just fine, and say whatever I want. Let's say that was my chat, right? So that's a new post in this team, and in theory, if I'm a fellow team member and I am paying attention, this would go bold. In fact, let me open up Deborah here so I can use her as my other user throughout this. So get her open, and I think she and I are both in the finance team. So just a general post there. See, here's finance, or no, District 9 is where I just posted that. Doesn't look like she's in it. Let me go to the finance team and I'll say hello. General post, nothing fancy there. And from Deborah's perspective in the finance team, it went bold, right? So if anybody's paying attention, they don't necessarily miss the fact that something happened in their team and in their channel, right? So it went bold. There's the hello, right? So in general, for a person that's active in Teams, they're not going to miss things. But if they're not, for instance, if I look at Deborah, let's see how her notifications are set. If I come over to activity, there wasn't really an activity piece there that represents that I just chatted. So if Deborah's paying attention, certainly she saw it. there, it went bold, all that good stuff, but no activity and probably no email, related to it as well. But now, of course, if I mention her, then she is going to get something. And in fact, this is one of my first tips, I think, is, let's ignore this one for a second and maybe go to something that looks more interesting. Here is where apparently I'm trying to start a conversation with the team about this federal holidays document. And there was some activity. It looks like at least a couple folks are talking. If I wanted to make sure, whether it's at the beginning or even as this conversation is going, I want to make sure, Deborah sees this. The @mention is useful, right? So I've seen people do it where literally I could just put Deborah and literally just go that approach, or sometimes people will say, you should see this. And notice I'm just saying this. I don't need to elaborate on or explain all the details of what the conversation is, right? It's just, hey, Deborah, you should see this, and I hit go. So now for perspective, as people are in this conversation, looking at this conversation, it should be obvious there that not so much adding to the conversation, I'm really just sending this out to Deborah. So usually Teams folks are used to seeing that. If I'm someone else, I kind of ignore that. I just know that, Ricardo's trying to reach Deborah. It's part of this conversation. If I look at Deborah, where's Deborah? Right here. Close this before I confuse myself. It's gonna go bold as mentioned as normal, but there is, mod or administrator mentioned you, right? And clicking it takes her right here. Now, why didn't I have to describe it? Well, because it takes her right to the conversation. In theory, it should be obvious to her, you should see this means this thread that you are in. So now I can just go up all the way to the beginning or see the, conversation. So again, I don't have to elaborate. I just have to tag. I could have just tagged her name, and in theory, even that would have been enough, right? She would have had mod mentions you. She would have gone here, just seen her tag. And it's kind of implied that I'm trying to call your attention, Deborah, to this thread that you're in. Should be obvious that just, mention her in a new chat was not going to help. It's really putting her in the conversation, which is going to bring her with one click in there. So that's one way to bring someone in. And I'm going to talk about a couple more, but I'm looking at some questions here. And so one, the chat meeting history can get pretty messy. Any guidance on how to housekeep? Should you hide all meetings you no longer want in the chat tab? And so yeah, they're asking about this area where you do have a recent area that as you're in chats and meetings, those chats do go in here in the recent area. And that certainly is, you could collapse it if you don't want to see those things. Personally, I don't hide much. I will, as the question is talking about, for any of these meetings, I can hide it, right? It's actually still available to me, at least by search, right? So let's say I hid GGG3 meeting, right? Nothing really happened there. I want to clean it up, so I would hide that. Still available to me. I don't know if it'll work here in live demo, but if I did GGG3, yeah, there's the meeting I just hid. Now it's back again. So hiding doesn't mean like it's gone forever. It's just kind of, as the person was saying, hidden from my view, so I can kind of clean up things from that perspective. I personally don't clean up very much, just because this is usually newest to oldest. So I just kind of get used to understanding newest is at the top. Same way with not trying to clean up even the Teams chat area. It's newest to oldest, starting from the bottom. So anywhere I come into a channel, I know the bottom is the new stuff, so I don't worry about it there. I will say that what I do though is, while I don't clean up much, if something is a message that or a meeting that I do want to keep in front of me, then I will pin that, right? So I hit pin and it goes up into this pin area. So I probably have about 10 pinned chats or meeting notes. I will certainly pin a meeting when it's something where either the chat was good or the meeting got recorded, and so I want easy access to go back and watch the recording, which is in line with the chat. It's also my way of just remembering, almost like a to-do list, right? The stuff, if I've got a meeting in chat, it probably means it's something I missed, and I'm making a mental note to kind of go back to it. So that I do that as well in terms of pinning. So that's my kind of way of managing the clutter, I guess, of this recent area. I rarely hide, but every now and then I'll hide, but it's usually about pinning that I would do. So yeah, that's a good question. Yes, often I get questions about clutter of the chats. And again, to me, it's just about just remembering it's newest to oldest, you know, in every case. And so I think that's how I manage that. The question here about will teams limit mentioning at someone to only members of the team or channel? Yes. So in the team itself, yes. When I mention, I'm not mentioning anyone in the organization, because everyone in the organization doesn't even have access to this team. So it's kind of smart enough to know I can mention people in this team. So yeah, mentioning, for instance, is not a way to bring someone into the team, like add them as a member or anything. It's going to be only people who are already a member. Now, you know, you could, if depending on your rights in the team, first add the person to the team and then mention them. Could be one approach to do that. But to your question, yes, it's going to mention only the people in the team. An mention on this side is essentially the same. For instance, I'm in, I believe it's the same. I'm in this chat with Nestor. I can't just mention someone else, so it's really just specific to our one-to-one chat. I can certainly add someone later, but you know, add someone and then mention them. But yeah, I can't just randomly mention. So mention is in the context of the conversation that you're in. That's a good question. To that point, I was going to say that, you know, so yes, I mention only people that are in this team, but what if I did want to, you know, maybe bring someone else in or something like that? The other way I do that is, here's this interesting conversation about the federal holidays document. If I go to the 3 dots, I can copy a link to this specific conversation. Then I can go over, let's say, to chat, fire up a chat with anybody, let's say Nestor. I don't know if he's in the team or not, but I could say, you know, let's just say you should see this, right? And when I Control V to paste it in, I get a nice, elegant little paste of a link to that conversation and where it got posted and when. Now, if this person is part of the team, why would I do this? I might do this just because I want Nestor to see this, and maybe I want to have a private conversation with him about that message, you know, or that conversation, so he can click that and go there. If he's not a team member, then you know, maybe this is a way for him to kind of know that team is there, and then he can request either for me or the owner to be added to the team. So that may be just a way to let him know interesting stuff is happening in a team that he's not in, but maybe it's a team that he could be in if he you know, wanted to request. So I do that often as well. Also, I do that sometimes through email. Again, that same link I just used, I could, you know, email to someone, Control V to paste it in there. Same concept, right? So I'm just grabbing a copy of the link to that conversation. I can post that anywhere. So again, if the person I'm emailing is a part of this, they'll get right in. If they're not, they could, you know, decide whether they want to request. And of course, in this case, it's real easy to add a bunch of people here or email distribution list. But again, if they're all not members, that could get a little messy. But that's to me, the 3 buttons and that copy link to post, I think, is useful for just getting somebody one quick access to that conversation. So yeah, so to that question of the mentioning, it is limited to team members, which are that context. And then, is it possible to delete anything that is placed in teams, individual items, posts, and chats? So yeah, you do. Here I am saying hello. that has the 3 dots and an edit. I could edit that to say more things and then hit OK. I've edited. You can see it says edit it there. In fact, the pro tip here is if I said something and then I realized I made a snafu. You can't see me here, but I'm actually hitting the up button on my keyboard, the direction buttons, up, down, left, right. Hitting it up twice actually takes me from this area right into edit mode. So yeah, I could discard that. I could go over here, click, hit edit. But again, if I've just made a post and I immediately realize I messed up, tap on the up button and it takes me right into edit mode. That's a nice little trick you can show your friends and look really cool. So I can certainly edit, and I can also delete my post, right? So message has been deleted, and it's gone. I can undo it. It's gone from my and my team members' view. If you're saying, is it gone from e-discovery perspective? No, depending on retention policies, right? There could be a retention policy in place that preserves data for a certain amount of time. So discoverability from a compliance perspective, it's not necessarily gone. It depends on retention policies, but from an end user perspective, it could be deleted. I can't go delete other people's posts, just my own. So yeah, here we go with that one. Right, that's Ricardo's post there. I can't delete or edit that one. I could still do that copy link thing though. So that's the question there. And then in terms of deleting other things, yeah, I could delete files. I mean, we're all in theory trusted team members, so we all have the ability to manage this data and everything from creating, editing, and deleting. I can delete stuff here as well. So I could delete files. I could delete my posts, things like that. So yeah. Someone asked, can you talk about the process of adding a stream tab to a team? Will it provide continuous feed on newly posted videos from the stream group? So I am, yeah. First thing I'll point out, the people attending right now, you may or may not be some of my government customers. That's the accounts that I have are state and local government. If you're in the commercial side and I just click that tab there and you're wondering why there's only a few here, on the commercial side, you probably got tons of third-party tabs and other first-party tabs. I'm in a government tenant right now, so that's why you see that. So I'm just make that clarification. But yeah, the stream tab, does allow you to either do a video or a channel. And so when you do paste a link to a channel, then yes, as people add things to that channel, it's going to continue. It's going to update appropriately. Just real quick, I'll see if in my little demo environment here, if I've even got a channel to show here. So Stream, if you don't know, is your repository, part of Office 365. It's your video repository to add videos to that only the org can see. And so if I go here to discover and channels to see if there's, looks like I made maybe a channel here. There's probably not anything in it. Yeah, not anything in it, but yeah, I could have, grab a link to this channel, right? And let's copy that and go back here and go to stream, go to here, hit channels, paste the link. Right there is that. So kind of confirm that I got my link right, and hit save. Should be empty. So there we go, empty. If I come back here and close that, and let's see if I can add a random. Let's see. I just want to try to add a random video here. Let's say about test meeting maybe. Hopefully I'm in the right one here. Search for videos. Come up. Maybe I can't. I'm not sure what user I have versus what I can. Maybe I should I don't know. I can't. I'm not sure like what profile I'm in terms of to add, but in general, yeah. If I was to add a meeting here, I don't want to upload one, but yes, in theory, over here on this side, this thing would update appropriately. So I've seen people use this for actual meetings. Let's say this finance team records their meetings often. Then somebody comes and adds those meetings to a channel. Now with one tab, I've got all of the meeting recordings all in one place, and yes, it'll stay up to date. So yeah, so even though I wasn't able to actually show it, the answer to the question is yes, this will update. Okay, so good questions. So yeah, talking about chat, yeah, that's how I like to bring people in, is with that, where was I in the finance one, that at mention, you know, you should see this, sometimes copying the link there. There have been times, again, where if I'm literally talking in real time to someone, hey, did you see that? Oh, I didn't see it. What are you talking about? You know, even in real time, I'll just go in and just quickly just tag them, knowing that that will put it right at the top of their activity feed, and then they can go right to it. So it's not just about doing it in a way where someone kind of later on sees the mention, but it could be in the moment, right? I'm trying to bring somebody directly to something. So I could either tag them, or I could go through a few more clicks if I wanted to grab the link and give that to them in a chat. So either way. In terms of when do I at mention the team, is really, so a couple things about that. You know, one, with general, usually that's the channel where people are typically getting notifications. So I don't at mention the team or anything much in the general channel, but it's these other channels where that becomes important. Because for instance, you know, one of the beauties of channels is that if it's not something I regularly deal with, I might hide this channel, and I may not, you know, follow the channel. I may decide to hide it. And so if sudden, you know, and it could be a channel that doesn't get a lot of activity in general, but if that one day that it finally does, and so I try to be sensitive to that. If I know this is a lightly used channel, people are probably hiding it or not viewing it, that's when I'll fire up a you know, either a general mention or a team mention, and then say what I need to say, because I know you know, that people may not actually be taking a close look at this channel. So that's when I will do that. It's just if it's some embedded, or you know, one of the channels that may not get a lot of use. But I try not to do that too much. I mean, I don't want to just assume everybody thinks that all the things I think are important, you know, are important to them. But if it's something, you know, team related that I know that they're supposed to really know about, that's when I start tagging or mentioning teams or not. So yeah, so just keep that in mind, that, you know, your team members may have decided to hide things, so you can't always depend on them seeing the channel go bold if they've hidden it. So that's when you may need to do those kind of tags. The other place where mentioning is useful, and I had planned to blog on this, but I guess I can just use this form now. But in a one-to-one chat, you may not think, I mean, I'm chatting with Nestor. We're the only two people in this chat. Why would I need to mention him in our one-to-one chat? Clearly, we're talking to each other, but you can see here, I mentioned him here. And that's because when I chat, let me chat with Deborah, actually, since I got her up. I want to start up a chat, and I was chatting with her before, but here I am. I'm going to say, you know, what's up, right? Over on Deborah's side, you can see that she's got multiple chats going on, and that should have turned from 3 to 4, meaning one of the new chats is me. There I am. It's bold. I'm saying what's up, and that's cool. All right. And so now it went from 4 to 3. So I did get she got a red indicator there. It was bold when she went into chat. So all of that is cool. But the difference then becomes, let me send her, oops, I keep clicking that guy. Let me send her back to see our teams area, just so we see it's 3 there. Now the difference is what's up at Deborah. and do that. If I go back to Deborah, something a little different is that here's I think she got a pop-up on the other one, but again, it's a separate pop-up that I mentioned her. Still got the 3 to 4, that's good, but she also got a number 1 on activity. So now she's actually getting something in her activity feed. So here's my thoughts on this. One, I have basically forced 2 notifications to her, and to some degree that could be annoying, right? That could be kind of rude, right? Like I went from 3 to 4 and she gets an activity feed. But depending on what I know of Deborah, maybe, I'm really just trying to make sure she sees this. And so I've allowed my post to give her a double notification. Again, if she's someone that maybe isn't, 100% in Teams, I mean, this just may be a helpful thing. I don't know that I use this every single time because it could seem like, hey, okay, I get it. I need to check my private chat and find your messages. So I use that when I really, especially if I haven't chatted with Deborah in a while. This could potentially not only give her the indication in private chat, give her the activity piece, and could potentially even send her an email based on how her settings are. So again, I'm pulling this kind of thing out of my toolkit when I haven't talked with Deborah in a while. She could reasonably not be paying attention to me these days, and I just want to really make sure she knows I'm trying to start up a new conversation. So again, even though this is our individual one-to-one chat, there's still some value to mentioning the person you're one-to-one chatting in, just so you can throw more notifications their way. Again, I use with caution. Somebody could be like, okay, dude, that's a lot of mentions there. I get it. But yeah, so that's something to keep in mind, that there is some value to mentioning even in a one-to-one chat. And someone asks, from a video question perspective, is it possible to display more than 4 people on the screen in Teams during a video meeting with 10 people? So today, the screens is a 2x2 or 4 people. We have announced, and there's blog posts out there that 3x3 or 9 screens is coming. So that's coming soon. So that you see 9 people, and then everybody else goes as a thumbnail at the bottom. What I also take this opportunity to say too is, if you don't see, there's some intelligence Teams is using based on how your client is performing that kind of decides how much video to show. So I don't know if you ever try this out, but let's say you try it on a high-end machine with a great network versus maybe a lower-end machine with a not so great network. You might find that you in the same meeting are seeing all the people's video on one and maybe just a few video feeds on another. And that's because the client on the lower-end machine or maybe the lower network machine is realizing, I'm struggling here. Let me decide, to kind of get a little light on the video feed. So that's something to keep in mind too. On a good day, with a great machine and a great network, yes, you'll see 4 today, and soon to be 9 screens of video up, and stuff, thumbnails underneath, and all that good stuff. So the short answer is no, not today. Only 4. Soon 9. To your question about number of screens up on the number of video feeds up on the screen. Okay. So hopefully that was helpful, and that's a good question. Yeah, so kind of coming at time here, so I hope that was helpful. Again, that was I appreciate all the questions that were there. But yeah, those are some of my tips on chatting. To me, those are etiquette or tips that aren't necessarily obvious, or you may not find a Microsoft Docs article related to those kind of things, but just over time, I'm a member of 65 teams and hundreds of channels and whatnot. You just kind of get used to tactics for how to talk or chat in these things. So more to come in future sessions, but hopefully that was helpful. So again, thanks for the questions. Again, this link soon after this will be, will take you to this recording and all past recordings as well. So feel free to refer back to it. With that said, I will give you your day back. Have a great Friday, and I'll see you next week, next Friday at 10 a.m. Have a good one.